Hello, this is Pavel, and this is Monday's operating brief, where I take AI and technology signals and look how they change service companies' operations. The pattern in a brief is different from the usual tool discussion. AI is not only changing how work gets done, it's changing where the value survives. First, one question I keep coming back to is very simple. How does $1 trillion AI investment get paid back? Not in theory, but in real economy. There are only few ways. The platform can charge businesses much more than they pay now. I think that has a ceiling because every company has a level where the AI bill starts to feel unacceptable. They can sell infrastructure to everyone underneath them. That will happen, but it does not truly answer the question. Or they can move closer to the actual consumer relationship. That is the part service companies should be paying attention to. If AI platform, a SaaS vendor, or a marketplace can stand between you and your customer, answer the question, book the job, recommend the provider, handle the service flow, and own the interface, there is no longer just helping you. It is moving into the value. So the question for the service company is not only how do we use AI, it is which part of our value chain must never become rented land. Because if the most important part of the customer relationship lives inside someone else's AI layer, the company did not transform, it's got absorbed. The practical question is not whether AI is useful. The question is which part of the value you refuse to let anyone else own. Well, the next part is the old technology law is still true. Technology eliminate the middleman. But for the service company, the useful move is to turn that inward. Look at your own service and ask which part of the value we deliver is actually the middleman. It might be collecting information from one place and typing it to another. It might be chasing status. It might be answering the same question. It might be coordinating three people because the system never knew who owned the next step. If AI can stand between the task and the outcome, that task is not a mode anymore. It becomes baseline. Customers will still expect it. They just will not give you any credit for it. That is the uncomfortable part. The service company cannot compete by doing soon to be the baseline work manually. It has moved more value higher into judgment, trust, speed, specializations, customer understanding, and the ability to deliver the outcome with less friction. So I would not start with where can we add AI. I would start with where it is still acting as a middleman inside our own service. The move is to find the part of the value that technology will absorb and move the company above it before the market does it for you. Well, one conversation I had recently framed the problem very clearly. Your team may already be running agents nobody owns. That sounds small, but it's not. The moment the AI agent touches consequential work, it stops being a personal productivity trick. It becomes part of the business process. A support agent answering from the old policy is not hallucinating problem only. It is an ownership problem. A planning agent turning messy ticket and the clean looking priorities is not automatically progress. Someone has to own whether the input is current, whether the instructions still fit, whether the output is useful, and when the agent should be changed or shut down. In service company, every recurring agent should have a plain language owner card. What job does it do? Who owns it? What data does it rely on? What is the success signal? What makes us turn it off? If nobody can answer those questions, the agent is not a capability. It is a polished operational debt. The service company rule is simple. If an agent does work, someone owns the agent as part of their own work. One technical signal I liked from TLDR was about agent hooks. The phrase is technical, but the idea is simple. Do not rely only on instructions. Use hooks that interrupt the agent while it worked and enforces the rules. In software, that might mean the agent is not allowed to say it is done while tests are failing, or it cannot use a banned pattern, or it cannot change its sensitive file before a check. For the service company, the translation is very direct. Do not just tell the AI, follow our policy. Build the places where the workflow stops if the policy is violated. A scheduling agent should be not able to confirm a job outside of service area just because the language sounds confident. A billing assistant should not be able to send a customer-facing message if required fields are missing. A claims assistant should not be able to close a case when the required human review is incomplete. The lesson is not to make AI slower. The lesson is to make the predictable failures impossible or visible. Prompt instructions are wishes. Hooks are controls. The companies that scale AI safely will not only write better prompts, they will design better stopping points. Another idea from my recent discussion is worth pulling into service companies. When software gets cheaper to build, features become easy to copy. So the moat moves somewhere else, not just to technology, to focus, distribution, trust, brand, embedded habits, and knowing what not to build. And the last one matters. AI makes it tempting to add every feature, every automation, every internal tool, every customer-facing workflow. But cheap creating does not make everything worth creating. But cheap creation does not make everything worth creating. For a service company, this is a serious management shift. If you automate the wrong thing, you do not become more advanced, you become more cluttered. The company needs to ask, which AI moves straight into relationship, reduce friction, improve trust, or protect margin? And which one is just activity because the tool made activity cheap? The future technology company is not the one that builds everything. It is the one that knows what not to build. When building gets cheap, restraint becomes a technical advantage. Recently, I had an interesting observation about AI adoption among educated professionals. The short version is that useful technologies do not get adopted automatically, even by smart people. Some people dismiss AI as a bubble. Some call it as autocomplete. Some call it as slop. Some resist it because it threatens status, identity, or the way their professions has always worked. I think service company owners should pay attention to this, but not in a culture war way. The operator's job is not to worship AI. It is not to sneeze at AI. It is not to sneer at AI. The operator's job is to test reality. Where does this tool improve the work? Where does it create risks? Where does it produce better output? And where it is only produce confident noise? Where are people rejecting it because it is bad? And where are they rejecting it because it changes the status game? Dismissal is not governance. Serious use is governance. You cannot manage a technology you refuse to understand. The serious company neither worships AI nor sneers at it. It is a test where the tools changes the work. let's talk about physical AI. AI moving from screens into machines that sense, decide, and act in the real world. Robots, autonomous vehicles, drones, warehouse machines, domestic helpers, industrial systems. For a service company, this matters because service not only digital. A lot of service happens in the field. A technician drives somewhere, a machine fails, a facility needs inspection, a part has to be located, a route has to change, a safety condition has to be recognized. A customer says something on the phone that has a physical consequence later. So the long-term AI question is not only can it answer the customer, it is can the company connect digital intelligence to the physical work, the schedule, the asset, the photo, the sensor, the location, the technician, the promise, the exception. That is where the service companies should be looking. The chatbot is a visible surface, but the deeper shift is that AI starts touching the physical operating system of the business. AI is leaving the browser, so the service company has to connect intelligence to the real worksite, not just the chat window. Someone made a sharp third party risk prediction. Many AI vendors will fail or consolidate as a cost price. So exact percentage needs verification, but before using it on camera, the exact percentage needs verification, but the business point is already useful. If an AI vendor is deeply embedded in your workflow and that the vendor disappears, changes pricing, changes the product, loses support, or get acquired, that is not a software inconsistency. That is become an operational event. The question is not only does the vendor have a good demo. The question is what happens if the vendor is gone? Can we export the data? Can we keep the workflow running? Can we switch tools without rebuilding the business process? Do we know which customer promises depend on this vendor? Do we know which internal workflow would stop? This is not anti-vendor. Good vendors matter. But a service company becoming a technology company has to understand dependency. Vendor survival ability is now part of operation design. The demo tells you what tool can do, but the exit plan tells you whether the business can survive depending on it. McKinsey put the make versus buy question in a very clean way. Are you building a capability or renting one? That question matters more in the AI era. If you outsource a customer service workflow to a vendor with AI inside it, you might get speed quickly. But what exactly are you renting? Are you renting temporary labor? Are you renting software? Are you renting the learning loop? Are you renting the operating knowledge of how your customer asks for help? And when the vendor report performance, is the metric pure AI performance or it is blended with the human backup so the number looks cleaner? For the service company, this is a strategic question. Some work should be rented because it's not core. Some work should be owned because it teaches the company how to serve, price, route, and improve. AI opens that decision. The old outsourcing math was mostly labor math. AI outsourcing math is capability math. Before outsourcing AI workflow, decide whether you are buying capacity or giving away the learning loop. On the frontier signal I liked was about AI benchmarks. Public benchmarks are starting to saturate. The exact scores need verification before using them, but the direction is clear. The big models are getting very good at the standard tests. When that happens, the public benchmark tells you less. It is like a school where everyone starts getting A and the same exam. At that point, the exam is no longer telling you who can do the real job. For the service company, this is important. The question is not whether the model is impressive or on the internet. The question is whether it is succeed on your work. Your messy ticket, your strange customer requests, your policy exception, your incomplete forms, and work benchmark. Give AI 20 real use cases that represent the work you actually care about, see whether it fails, improve the system, run it again. The operation will own the benchmark, own the improvement loop. So that's the pattern. AI not only changing how work gets done, it's changing where the value survives. Some work becomes baseline, some work gets absorbed, some work should be rented, some work should be owned, and some work needs to test before it even reaches the customer. That's why service companies cannot treat AI as a pile of tools. They have to treat it as a change in the operating model. The tool is never the point. What it changes is. And I'll see you next time.